Hello, we are live. I hope everybody's doing great on this Tuesday night. You are watching Fregaboom Live, my episode of the Brofessionals, where today we're going to be talking about the idea of the amount of creativity we have and what it'll take to get that stuff out of us before we shed the mortal coil, not to be too crazy. I'm going to find it on Twitter real quick, or what do they call it, X now? Uh, I gotta find the video. Actually, I could probably find it on Facebook. I'll just pop that up. Facebook. I hope everybody's doing good today. We got Huffin. No, sorry, Her and the Steadfast. We got Retro Collective. Llama Gigante. How are you, buddy? Good, a familiar name. Leg Kick. My man Hank Abbott is here. Citizen Ronan. Robert the Bruce. One Slick Dude. Mo Biggs. How are you, Mo Biggs? It's been a while. We're collecting people. We're almost at 50 people here in the chat. Smack that like button, share it out. We've been doing that. If I seem slightly pained today, I'm happy to say I'm completely off the painkillers. So I am fighting the post surgery stuff on my own. With this, I'm not even a sponsor of this, but I want to tell you guys, if you guys are kicking the booze like I am, but really enjoy a tasty beer with a hearty hamburger, Athletic Brewing Company is pretty crazy good. I ended up going on some lists, checking out best non-alcoholic beverages because I tried some O'Doul's and some Bud Light or not Bud Light, the Bud Zero. I wouldn't drink Bud Light. Sorry about that, guys. What am I saying? Anyhow. Looks like I'm live on Facebook. Let's scroll over to this video, and then I'll share my screen so you guys can get a bit of context of what we're talking about. Here it is. Let me go full screen on it. And hey, you know what? When I watched some of the episode, I was really quite loopy, and I appreciate your guys' patience for dealing with me when I was on my meds. Everybody included. All right, let's go to Brave tab, Facebook, share audio tab. So here's the idea of today's show, and I came up with it last week in my hydrocodone malaise. Well, hold on, I gotta share it first. My lord, here we go. I am the boomer of the day. I haven't hosted in so long, guys. Cut me some slack. Here we go. Share the screen. Haha. And my bros are back there watching me.
You guys ever think about the what Art's saying, like the mortality thing? Like, before I went under the knife, like I really thought about it. It was my mother's birthday, and I really was feeling superstition and kind of worried, like, hey, this may be the end, and like I have so much fucking shit to do, and like, personal stuff with the family, watching the kids grow and all that, but also my own personal goals. And you run into the conundrum of like how much fuel you have in your own personal tank. Do you try to take it all on? And if you do you create a style in which, like Darwin, you say he's confident? Bruce Timm's the same way. You watch Bruce Timm draw. There's no indecision. Sure. It's and that's a beautiful place to be. So you go. That means your output is more, or do you do kind of like what the Image guys did, at least with Jim and Rob, where you go, hey, listen, I have this idea. I'm gonna write it all out in outline, and I'm gonna supervise it, but I'm gonna let it go here. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you guys think about that ever?
So that's today's topic. I'm gonna bring the guys in. We're gonna break format. Usually we go around, but this is going to be a roundtable discussion. I'm really excited to talk to my pals about this and share this conversation with you guys because, like I said, my surgery had me up in my crazy feelings, thinking, this could be the end, superstition and whatnot. Mr. Smith, Mr. Nolan, Mr. Lepresti, Mr. T-Bear. Absent today is Mr. Billy, but
shit! Look at Aaron. He's already in the grave.
I know.
Horatio, I knew you well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, everybody, that's weird. Mine, the one I got is it's like a joke, I guess.
I
You
got this
guys,
on like a magic shop on Hollywood Boulevard, just past Fredericks of Hollywood, back in the old days, like 1986 ish.
That's a real skull, right?
No, it's fake.
Oh,
I
really?
can see you
Well, I had to
guys.
grime it up because I had a skull in my movie, and I made it film school. And I actually had a real one I got from a guy who bought a house from a doctor, and he just left it there. And
Hey,
it was
I'm
so
sorry,
dark. It was like dark
did
brownish
it scare
gray.
you? Yeah.
No. And but we put it in the sand and you couldn't even see it. So I bought this thing, which was stark white, at this novelty shop, and then, glued some dirt in here and things like that. Put it in the ground, you could see it perfectly. So it worked out great.
Check this
He's
one
been
out.
with me ever
If
since.
you're into a little head, you know what I'm saying?
I'm
Look
into
at that.
I'm
Look at
into
how small that thing
medium
is.
head. Medium
Look how
head right
small
here.
that thing is. But then when I put it up next to mine,
Mm.
I got this
Very-
at one of the Comic Cons. It was like, $22 for the little skull, but it's super accurate. I want to say what's up to people. We're doing a simulcast thing. We're going through not only X, Facebook, my channel, but it's also going through Graham's channel. And yes, we
And
can.
mine.
And Andy's. This is something we're doing to build the reception of Brofessionals. You guys,
That's right.
if you wanna, you can follow each one of us who has our own channels, as well as Billy with the Pop XP. But today we're going to be talking about just like what I said. Here we are. We're on the second side of the game, and we're better at what we do, but we still have a whole warehouse full of ideas. What do we do? Do we hire people to do them, or do we do them ourselves? Do we create little mini Bibles for the future? Do we plant seeds that will never see the shade of those trees? Do you know what I'm saying? What do you think, guys?
No thoughts. It's all over for me, man.
It's 1 foot in the grave.
I could see Graham's
Wow.
your brain's rambling. I want to hear what Graham has to say.
Well, I've been expanding a little bit so that, because like when I started Compass Comics, the whole idea was for me to create projects for myself to do. And then when I did Giant Size Two-Fisted Manly Tales, which was an anthology book, the one thing I didn't want to do on that was to draw it, So
Right.
I got all these other artists. I got 4 other writers, and I wrote 2 stories just to expand my publishing line. And now with Joe Frankenstein, we have Anthony Gonzalez Clark going to be doing the artwork while Chuck and I are writing the story. But at the same time, now I'm working on the 3rd part of Monster Island, Escape from Monster Island, so that, I can put more stuff out there, more of my ideas out there, but still have control of as much as I want,
That's the dream, man. That is the
Yeah.
dream.
So Graham's
Yeah,
living
yeah,
the dream.
Yeah, I didn't want to let it go. Like so when I started publishing independently again, last couple of years, I didn't want to let any of it go. So I wanted to do everything. So when I launched, Chrono and Black and White, I was like, I'm doing all of this stuff, right? But then like the reality just hits in, and you just realize like time is really our biggest enemy, right? It's time. It's not the talent. It's not all of us. It's just time. So then
You know what they say? Time keeps on ticking, ticking, ticking
into
the
future.
yeah.
Sorry.
So then that realization hits, and you just go, well, this has taken me X amount of months, and I love it. I'm having the time of my life drawing it, but I have other stories that I want to tell. So then for me, it was just the reality of the situation. I would love to just do this for the rest of my life and have the control and everything. But it's the frustration of having all these stories, all these IPs, all these ideas that you want to get out there. And then you realize the limitations because of time, what you can and what you cannot do. So reality, I always used to say, I hate I hate reality. I hate that part of the world because it's always it forces you, it restricts you, it tells you what you can and cannot do. And I don't like to be told that. As a creative person, I like to think like I have all the time in the world to do all of this stuff. But the
No.
reality of it, it just isn't the case.
I'll tell you, man. I mean, I'm sure, but you guys being all ancient like you are, have all had surgeries of some sort. No.
I never have. We talked
Okay.
about.
Well, when
When
you
your
get a
brain got taken out, Andy, of course
Yeah.
you're not going to
Well,
remember.
I mean, that wasn't voluntary. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Abby
Doug,
normal.
my man
I
Doug.
w-
My man Doug.
Does it count if you? Does a surgery count if you wake up in a tub full of ice and your back hurts the next day and you're missing a
No.
kidney?
No, it's
Depends if you got paid.
Yeah,
I didn't.
did you
My
make?
friend Doug says when you get older, you start to evaluate, is it worth your time or not? Which is absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, I used to maybe get into petty or trivial things, and as I get older, I just realize, you know,
Well,
what
you know
matters.
why you do that? You know why you do that? Because you realize you have experience and you realize how much time it takes to do certain things. You know
Well,
what I mean?
I'll tell you,
have perspective. So that's why you evaluate these things.
The thing that really pushed me though was, like I had said in last week's show, my best friend died on my mother's birthday in 1987. Like he was my best friend, and he got hit by a car on the way to school, and it was awful. And then the following year, my stepdad's friend got hit by a car when he was on his motorcycle, and he died. So my mom's birthday has always been one of those, hey, I hope I don't, you know, something. So I did have a little bit of like, oh, if shit goes wrong, today's the day for it to go wrong, you know,
Right.
like so in my mind, I was more kind of hyper focused on those things you're talking about, Art, because of course we think about it, but I was kind of hyper focused about it, and like for me, what I think would be the best way, and what I was blessed enough to see a model of that did not work, was Extreme Studios. I think that if Rob had the right people there and wasn't hiring like buddies and pals, and no, you qualify. I'm talking like,
but the thing is, like I'm just helping to illustrate it. Like
Yeah.
there was things that he put me in charge of, but never gave me the power to really execute it. You know what I mean?
right,
So like,
right,
advertising quite a bit.
and I would say, you know, being that I've been part of different Hollywood productions and pipelines, both live action, animated, CG, you realize that
You
Uh-oh,
freeze up
Uh-oh.
sometimes.
What do you realize?
freeze.
I
We're
have
on the
to
edge of our
know.
seat.
Damn it!
What is it?
Son of
What
a
is it?
bitch! We're left hanging. What's he realize? Oh my
It's the
God!
end to the entire universe.
Oh my goodness.
You know, that-
Jeez!
Did you guys
This is
ever
like
see
the guy
that
on the
William-
mountaintop, and then he just falls off
Did you guys
right
ever
when
see
he's
that
about to tell
William
us the
Shatner
great
show?
gift. What the hell?
Did you guys ever see that William Shatner show, Raw Nerve? It was an interview show.
No.
Well, it's fantastic. He's a great interviewer, and he had Scott Baio on, and Scott Baio was relating. I had taped the episode. Scott Baio at the end is relating the story. He says about Charlton Heston, and he goes, "Yeah," and that's when Charlton Heston said to me, and it cut off.
Oh.
I don't know what Charlton
Hey,
Heston
whoa,
said
we
to
got
him.
two frag-a-booms. What the hell?
my internet went down for a second. Everything that is connected all went boop, and so here we are.
It's like a weird
Wow.
sci-fi
Is there any
movie.
way to get rid of your doppelganger to
Yeah,
to
let
your
me see.
I
right?
kind of like it.
There we go.
It's
That was
creepy.
Yeah.
freaky.
Every time he freezes up, there'll be a new Dan and be like all full of
Dude,
Dans.
it was
Which
so
one's the
fun.
real Dan?
You guys remember when
Multiplicity.
we talked about this next week? Don't you remember?
Hey, let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
There's an old saying that a cartoonist dies on the board or on a broad. They don't retire.
Right.
So, do you guys ever think about retiring? Do you ever think about
No.
retirement? You know, I've got friends
No.
of mine that are engineers and stuff, and yeah, some of them, my brother's retired, and friends are about to retire, and you know, they ask me, "Are you retiring?" I said, "No, I'm not retiring." You know, I've
Well,
got
like you, as artists, I'm sure you guys are all the same way. It's like, what do you do in your spare time when you're not doing anything? You draw. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like, why
I'm
would
gonna,
you
I'm
stop
gonna
doing that?
agree. I'm gonna agree, but I got a like a little extension here. Is like I don't want to ever stop drawing. Like it's in my DNA. I have to do this, but
Right.
I don't want to do it as I used to put it with a gun to my head. I don't want crazy stress. I don't want a deadline. I actually would like to just kind of create and to come up with stuff that I don't necessarily have to do, but I want to do. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I put 40 years in, and there's a lot of the stuff that I did that I didn't necessarily want to do. You know what? I kind of had to. I loved, working in the industry and stuff, but there were IPs, there were characters, there was working with certain people that I just didn't want to do. So I feel like I paid my dues, and what I would like to do now is kind of slow down a little bit and try to enjoy it. Where
Right.
before I was moving so fast,
Yeah.
like a breakneck
I
speed.
think that's it. I don't
enjoyed
think
my life a little bit more.
I don't see retiring like Graham was saying, like most people do, because like my brother-in-law retired a few years ago. He just does what he wants, putzes around the house, whatever. But with us, I see slowing down some, but I always see drawing. It could be something like, if I'm lucky enough to live as long as Ramona Fredon did, right? Doing just commissions and stuff, maybe, for myself. I mean, not for myself, but, doing commissions for people instead of doing like pages and storytelling and whatnot. I don't know, but I never see a point where I'm like, that's it, not drawing anymore. Like Marcus said in the chat, Byrne apparently is retired. He's not drawing anymore. He's done. I don't know. I just don't know what I would do during the day.
Yeah, see,
I would paint, I think.
yeah,
I think I would
Something else.
see,
more
that's the
painting.
thing. Like what I was saying before the internet tried to choke me out is what Rob tried to do, and what a tightly oiled Hollywood production smashed up together could be amazing if you had somebody with vision that can disseminate those things, meet with people that are on board with that, and they're basically your department heads. They report to you. You don't have to sit there and deal with the tedium. And then with the time you have on the side, you paint, you draw, you do your yearly project while your other ideas are getting made.
Mhm.
You know what?
what I'm
I
saying?
did that. I did that. After Marvel fired me, I talked to my wife and I said, I don't want to go back, and I don't want to do comic books. I don't want to work for Marvel, and I don't want to work for DC. So I just took time and I just created. I didn't have a direction. I didn't have a place to go. So I basically paid for my own, developmental time. Like I created stuff, and I paid for that to happen. So I would work with people. I paid them. I did stuff. So Chrono Mechanics came out of that. There was a bunch of kid everything. There was a hit. There was Rock and Robots. There was a lot of stuff that I created. And then because I started putting those out there, I got an agent. And so then I kind of went with like, oh, well, maybe I can make some money with these IPs. So then I went kind of pitched them around Hollywood. So I did that for about 2 years, and it was great. It was one of the best times of my life, but I paid for it. You know what I mean? Like I basically paid myself and gave myself that time to do that. And so the thing that always is for me is the money aspect. Like if I had money, then I could truly create. You know what I mean? If I
You
had
didn't have to make money with your projects, right? So that's really sort of the key here too. And Graham, you brought this up when you were answering your question about two-fisted tails. Is like there's two ways to look at this. Are you doing this to make money, or are you doing it to be creative? Now, to do it just to be creative and you be on your own schedule and whatever, you've got to have money in the bank. If you don't have money in the bank, then you're creating to make money. Right. So that what Art talked about, there's that deadline that you can never escape because you always have to do another project to bring the money in to pay the bills. And that's where I'm at. So you have to kind of balance that thing of, am I doing an independent comic book because I just want to realize my dreams that I've had my whole life and never got to do, and I'm drawing everything and I'm writing everything, right? And I'll make what money I can, as and I get as much of it out as I can. Or are you saying, This is more of a business proposition. And yeah, I've got books I want to do, but I also want to be, I want to expand my line. I want to be a product, someone who makes product, and then I'm going to hire this guy to do that and this guy to do that. And so it's two different mindsets, really. And you can kind of straddle the fence and do a little bit of both, but it all comes down to how much money you have and how much money you need to make, because that's going to dictate. It always dictates what you're able to do and how much of it you're able to do and what you're willing to do to get more product out there, to either raise more money or to just because you want to get your ideas out there, whatever it is. But it always comes down to that dollar sign, right?
It's the reality aspect of it. Yeah, it's the reality part of it that you're always fighting with. There's like kind of what you want to do, and then there's the restrictions of reality, which will dictate terms almost 100% always.
Sometimes you got to take the risk. If you're passionate enough about it, you have to. You can't be hemming and hawing about it. You got to jump into the water with both feet. When I created Monster Island for Compass Comics in 1998, I took 6 months off of working for anything for DC and just lived on. I had Bane royalties coming in that year, and so we lived on that, and we burned through it. We burned through it all while I did that 6 months, and eventually, I ended up having to go back to doing monthly books because I never made that Bane money back on the first publishing of Monster Island.
Right.
The market had changed in 1998. Things were changing hard. Speculator dollars were running out, and it was just a different time. My timing was off by about maybe 3 years. Had I launched earlier, in the 90s, it could have really, really taken off like a lot of independent, things were. But that just wasn't meant to be then. But having done that, yes, I didn't make any money on it, but doing that comic got me the job at King Features because I tried to syndicate it. And so they loved what I did and hired me to do Rex Morgan and the Phantom. So that kept me busy for 13 years out of comic books and in syndicated strips with money coming in to pay the bills for my daughter's school and everything else. Hated it. It was soul-sucking work, but sometimes you got to do the shit you don't like to pay the bills, for your family.
Oh yeah.
And I did it. And then when I couldn't take it any longer, Julie understood. I said, I can't do it. I can't do one more fucking day of this, and then, I got back into comics and stuff, freelancing stuff, discovered the Kickstarter or the crowdfunding thing. And now Monster Island has more than paid for itself, So by taking that risk, it may not have panned out in the beginning, but it gave birth to Compass Comics and all the books that I'm doing now.
And the thing is, you own those things. So the potential, and not just the potential of like the creative potential, but the financial potential is there too. So you can take these IPs and you can keep generating, because I published like the first issue of Chrono Mechanics 3 different times. And finally, that third time, I actually made money. Like I could say like, it's my money. You know what I mean? It didn't go out to pay for this guy.
Right. You didn't just break even.
Yeah, it was kind of a break-even proposition. And so, there is a lot of that, like gambling on yourself, gambling on those ideas. But what's great about right this moment, I tell everybody this, don't piss this away. This doesn't happen all the time. Comicsgate, all this stuff, this doesn't happen a lot. I had to go since the Image Day, like 94, all the way to this point to actually have a viable place where I could create just from the heart and actually get it in front of an audience and have it do reasonably well that I could sustain an existence on. And my gosh, it's an amazing time right now.
The music business is going through a similar thing. And I like this DJ. His name is The Alchemist. He was the DJ for House of Pain back in the day. And he said, I'm in the music business, but I'm not of the music business anymore. I have my own place where my fans come to see me. They buy my records here, they buy my merch here, and if I go on tour, they buy their tickets here. and he says, I live a great life and I'm really happy. And you know, as you said, Art, this is a really great day and age, because what he said was impossible in the 90s. Everybody knows I like making music and making, you know, beats and rapping and all that. I don't need, it's amazing that in 2024 I don't need anything more than a computer and a microphone and some money, and I can press 1,000, and if I sell 1,000, I'm actually making more money than I would had I signed with a label and sold 1,000,000.
Right.
You see, and there's this kind of beautiful freedom. And what's wonderful, especially about us as a group, and when I say us, I'm talking about most of the elder Comicsgate guys and us, the professionals, is we're kind of straddling the line. You know, what made me think this thought was you, Graham, saying that had you done it a couple years earlier in the 90s, you still would have been at the service of Diamond and Otherworld or Capital, whoever was around at the time.
True.
And getting a publishing deal and getting that relationship with a printer and taking the percentage of a percentage of a percentage after all said and done. You still would have been at service to that. Whereas now, because we straddle and know the old way and know what it takes, and we understand what's happening on this side, we are the sort of the glue. We're almost the Lewis and Clarks in a way of what to do with your creative endeavors in our field.
Well, one of the things you and I talked about early, Dan, when you first, you know, started with Comicsgate, is that it's like it's freedom. You know, like it really feels like you are independent. Like you don't have to depend on those conventional means to do your comic book. It really is between you and the audience, and that's it. That's all exists. You know, and I remember I have a friend, and he's a guitar player. He works with Jeff Dunham. He actually goes on stage with Jeff Dunham, and our kids were raised together. His name's Brian Hayner, and he's a guitar guy with Jeff Dunham. And so he said, you don't have to be everything to everybody. You just have to have your brand, understand your brand, and understand your audience, and just tailor everything to that. So, and then what was it, Terry Moore, that says all you really need is 2,000 like diehard fans that will basically.
It's really 1,000.
It's 1,000. Yeah.
I read a book. There's a book that I read called Superfan, and it's and it's about, you know, giving people, you know, what they want, and also searching and expanding. Obviously, you want to scale it, but the main thing and the main reason we want numbers. Some people go, oh, that's a money thing. People need to understand, at least from my point of view, I think my ideas are so cool, I want to share them with as many people as possible. That's what it boils down to.
Right.
You know, and so if you can get 1,000, that means you can sustain a lifestyle that will allow you to continue to make those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can do that now. We couldn't do that 20 years ago.
Right.
We are doing that now.
Yeah, we are. But I'm saying there's the gatekeepers, and that's why, you know, some people are ahead of their time. If you ever read that book Outliers, where it talks about how George Lucas, being born at a time and a place that he was in, really cultivated him being who he was. Had he been born 5 years earlier, he would have probably been a paleontologist. You know, like this sort of thing. And I know I brought Rob Liefeld up a couple times, but Rob was the first one to have that mindset, that put that mindset in my mind when he said, I looked at my X-Force numbers and said, I need to sell, you know, X many copies to make X amount. But if I do it on my own, I only have to sell this much to make that much. I think I can do this. You know what I'm saying? And he was the first one to do that. And when I look at what Extreme Studios was supposed to be, if you look at it in the most idyllic way, that each of the positions actually did what they were supposed to do, it could have been an amazing thing. And it still was an amazing thing. But I think now the time is right.
Well, you know, getting back to the age thing a little bit, because that was sort of the whole idea of the show is that I will say this, that I've got a sense of urgency that I've never had in my life right
Yeah.
now, and
Yes.
of trying to kind of you start thinking in terms of, all right, how many years do I have left? Not necessarily before I die, but how many years do I
Right.
have left where I can really still bring it? You know, what's that age where you start to decline? And I mean, they say it's 70. I don't know that that's always true, but if it is, you say, okay, in my case, I just turned 60, so I got 10 years left. And then you start thinking, okay, well, let's say I do Wraith of God till I'm 70, right? And you say, okay, well, how many of those can I actually get out in that period of time? Can I tell the
Right.
story I want to tell? And then what about these other ideas that I have? How can I work those into this and still get that done and have this sort of completion? Or do I even want to draw comics until I'm 70? Maybe by the time I'm 65, I'll just say, because it's hard, folks. It really is. When
Oh,
you're
yeah.
What if you found a great collaborator, you know, where you found a finisher, kind of like how
like
Barry Smith.
Gerard, and I could
Yeah,
like
yeah,
do a couple
yeah,
of I could
yeah,
do a couple of figures and let him draw the background.
you know, Barry Smith had John Floyd come in and really do some work, you know, and Sam Keith on those later issues of Max.
Well,
Same
my
sort
my
of thing.
struggle is I'm not one of these guys that, and I used to have these conversations when I was back in the studio in the 90s with the Studiosaurus guys here in Portland. As
Yeah.
you know, I would talk like for Ron Randall, he would say, you know, I want to die drawing comics. I want to be in a, you know, that's
At the
it for
board.
me. And I
Yeah.
was kind of like, that's not it for me. You know, that's why I keep forcing myself to paint, is because this is what I really, really want
Right.
to do, you know? And so I keep thinking, well, can I make
What's the
enough money by the time I'm
difference, Aaron?
65? Maybe then I can just paint into oblivion, you know, be that guy that's 70 or 80 years old painting away and just,
What's
you
the
know,
difference for you though? Because to me, it's basically taking the thing that's living inside that doesn't exist and making it
it's
exist.
not different here, but it's
Yeah.
different here because
Ah,
one thing that we found out, I think all you guys probably found out the same thing. And Art, you know, you're releasing a sketchbook right now, so you'll get an idea of the numbers that you get on a sketchbook as opposed to a story. Because
Right.
what I found out definitively is people want characters they can identify with, and they want those characters involved in stories that they can enjoy and be immersed in, more than just looking at our art. And
Right.
if you go back, which I often do, to the 70s with guys like Frazetta's the exception, so we'll just throw him out. But
Right.
you look at, you know, let's just take Barry Smith and Bernie Wrightson, right? They were in the studio, they were producing prints, and it was all about their artwork, right? And yet, what happened to those guys? They ended up back in comics, because I think that the audience is bigger for someone who's going to be a storyteller than someone who's just going to produce art. And so, unless you're selling like in a gallery or fine arts like that, the demands of the audience that we have right now, you know, that could change 5 years from now. It could change 2 years from now. Who knows? But the guys in the chat right now, for the majority of them, they want stories. They want characters, and they want stories they can get into, because they've left Marvel and DC behind, as we all have, or they've left us behind, depends on how you look at it. And somebody needs to fill that gap. And that's what we're doing, is giving people the stories that they want, that they're no longer getting from mainstream. But I still think that's the driving force for this industry, whether it's what we're doing independently or mainstream. People want characters that they're interesting characters that they can identify with, and stories that can keep them going along, and just like television or anything else. And so that's the difference from just sitting around painting and hoping I can sell my painting, or hoping I can sell a print of my painting, as opposed to creating a comic book with a story, or a graphic novel with a story that people can read.
I'd rather write it than draw it.
You sound like Jerry Ordway. He used to say it
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
Right?
but it's true. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I would rather at this point in my life, you know, your muscle hands and your eyesight can sometimes be your downfall as you age as an artist.
Sure.
Particularly working in comic books, you know,
But
because
it's a
it's
tricky
very
transition.
intensive. You know,
Yeah.
You're experimenting with it right now, Graham. So I think we're all kind of watching you, because it's a tricky transition. It's like if people get used to Frank Miller writing and drawing Daredevil,
Mhm.
right? and then now he's just writing Daredevil. Now, granted, he had Mazzucchelli or whoever.
That's good shit. That was good shit.
But it's like, how much do the people want to see you drawing it and telling the story, as opposed to just telling the story and have somebody else draw it?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, so what we do, I'm somewhere in between what Graham's talking about and what you're talking about, where I think my favorite part about comics and why I think comics will live on forever and ever is that it's basically easier to kind of be attracted to it than a book is. You can look at it and go, hey, that looks interesting, just like that. It's that sort of visual language, if done right, is universal. You can do something without word balloons and still tell an amazing story. So for me, I used to put on, even on my MySpace, it would say Dan Frega writes with pictures. I see things in shots and emotions in the way things look. So if I was to scale myself back, and it would be like life again, going back to Liefeld, I would start doing layouts. Just, say this is how you're getting this. You can deviate all you want from it, but this is how I see it. And it's like getting a cinematographer,
that we haven't even got into is like finding that person that you trust enough, or that is invested in the same vision and the same goal. I ran a studio for decades. I tried to do like IP out of Hack Shack Studios with each one of the guys that worked there. Like at night we would work on our IP, and then we were trying to figure out, how to sell it, market it, all those things. So we were doing that. But the thing is, like, the level of dedication, it all varied. And then the people, like, sometimes you'd partner with this guy in the studio or that guy in the studio, and then you realize that guy isn't quite as dedicated to it as you are. So you're thinking he's going to do 3 pages a week, but you get 2 panels.
Or the crazy ambitious person who's taking the gig to want to, level up over you.
Yeah, or just use you as an opportunity to get
the beauty about being an artist, and if you're creating an IP and then getting somebody else to do it, is that how to, first of all, what to look for.
Yes.
What talent level, what skill sets, what work ethic to look for. You have connections. You can contact A-list people and say, hey, here's this idea. Does this work for you? Would you like to be on board this in a creator-run project? That kind of thing. I mean, I did that with the Girls of Dimension 13. I didn't want to draw it because it wasn't in my wheelhouse, and I knew that the drawing of it was not going to be as good as if I could get somebody else to do it. And so I did. I got Brett Blevins, who was perfect for the aspects of that storyline that I needed. He had done Doctor Strange. He does Pretty Girls, and this is basically Girls of Apartment 3G meet Doctor Strange. So he was perfect for that gig, and he brought stuff to it from my descriptions that elevated it. Much better than if I drew it myself. And so again, it was something I could write and have another artist do, and then the entire picture becomes a better project. Because
that would be ideal.
If
you could find somebody that could plus the idea, you know what I mean? Like you have an idea and you throw it out there, and then what you're getting back is actually a notch above or 2 of what you originally visioned. I mean, I would love to get in that situation. I've had moments like that, but never like a whole project, where you're just like blown away every single panel, every single page. So that's the ongoing, kind of situation. But also, like, to find somebody like that, like, say you wanted to do more than 1 book or something like that, like finding, because they're not going to have the time to dedicate to these other projects as well. So, like, for me, I want to find like a kind of a core group of people that I can work with on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like a writer I can co-write with, that's got my back, that understands, and that we can kind of just keep boom, 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 banging stuff out. Or like what I'm doing right now is I'm working with Alan Patrick, who's a breakdown. Well, he's a penciler. He's Joe Bennett's assistant. So he's really good. He draws a lot like Joe Bennett, but like work off layouts, does a great job at it. and he gives me breakdowns, so I get to do finishes. So the finished look of the book of Black and White Volume 3 is going to look like I did it. So
Right.
what I'm hoping is, like, I love these guys. I'm working with Aaron Sparrow, so I'm hoping that Aaron will want to continue, and that the money's good, and that the work is feeding that creative niche that he has, and same with Alan. And then we can kind of go to the next project and the next project, because I don't know if you guys are like me, like, it's not just dreaming of the next project, but it's also like dreaming of like that team that's got your back, that can do the next project. You know what I mean? Because it's one thing to have the vision, but then it's another thing to trust people, or to know that they're there, that they can execute it. So so that's where I'm at right now.
Well, the interesting thing that we've been doing here in Comicsgate and through this independent market is we've been selling ourselves, right? And so you get people to buy the book because, hey, you know what? I like Aaron. I'm going to buy his book. Or I like Graham. I'm going to buy his book. Huh?
Whoever said that?
Well, I'm just hypothetically.
I like Aaron. I'm going to buy his book. Nobody's ever said that.
I know Bernie Wrightson didn't.
It's just a hypothetical situation, Graham.
You know what they say, Aaron, is they like Shelley. They like Shelley Lepresti.
I like Shelley. I'm going to buy Aaron's book.
As long as
I'd buy more copies if Shelley could actually draw. Oh well.
But here's the tricky part, right? It's like we sell ourselves, and with the idea of hoping to eventually sell an IP, right? So people now suddenly, oh, I'm going to read Wraith of God. I don't care who's drawing it. Well, you're not going to hire a hack, obviously, but you get somebody else to draw it, and it's not Aaron. But I love the character so much. I mean, that's what Marvel and DC have going for them, right? It doesn't matter who draws Spider-Man; they're still going to buy it, right? And so we're kind of trying to get to a point where we can transition a little bit into that, and that will enable us to do other things, because then it's like, well, I love the characters that Art's created, or Graham's created, or Andy or Aaron. And so as long as they have good art on there, it doesn't necessarily have to be them, because I like the character. And we're sort of in that early stage of doing that and making that transition from, hey, it's not just all about me, but it's about these characters that I've created. And I mean, I've got David Williams for Wraith of God 3 is doing a backup story with me. He's doing an origin story of one of my IPs. And in some ways I'm like, oh, I want to draw it. But it's like, I realize it's never going to happen. Is
it Esther? Yeah, and is she not wearing much clothing when he draws
you're confused again, Andy, with those adult comics you keep reading. You get confused. But at the same time, David's so good that it's like, I know it's going to be really cool. I can't wait to see it, So that's my first sort of foray into this, having someone else do one of my characters. And we'll see how that's
a great insight. That's a great insight, Aaron, because that is the next place, the next plateau is like, we are like the Stan Lees, we're up on our
Dale.
We're on our soapbox, and we're selling ourselves and our IPs. But at some point, wouldn't it be great if the IP then could sell itself?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just a Wraith of God comic book on its own would attract X amount of people.
Right.
Or one of our IPs, Black Flag, whatever. I think that would be the next place. The next plateau to be. I mean, we're always going to be the spokesperson for our IPs. I don't think that's ever really going to go away.
Right.
But it would be nice if actually just the IP itself, the story, the characters could be the attraction,
Right.
And there you go. End of the show. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Let's go off the rails. Let's go off the rails a little bit.
Well,
we're all going to die.
It is.
Oh, shit.
Screw
We're all going to die.
We're all going to die, and it's not going to matter anyway.
We were talking a little bit. I know a bunch of the folks in the chat are going to be seeing us either at Heroes or Garden State, so that's pretty exciting. I know the three of us will be at Garden State, and then Billy, we're here. Those three will be. What's up? See, he's like Beetlejuice. You say Brohawk 3 times.
He just shows up. Say it 3 times fast. Brohawk,
Brohawk.
Brohawk.
How are you, sir? Good to see you.
Go
ahead. Go.
I was just going to say, also, and I know Graham is doing this, and I don't know about Art or Andy to this extent, but I finally got my website open to the point where I actually have a store set up and you can sell
Oh, I've
items
got
through
that.
there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the next thing is like also is, can we move our audiences away from necessarily just not crowdfunding, but that being the only option, right? And where you can come by and go, oh, I missed that, but I can go to Graham's, site, or I can go to Aaron's site and I can pick up Wraith of God that I missed because I just found out about it, right? And so I think that's really important for all of us to, and it's just another thing we have to deal with, right? You're producing the book, you're shipping the book. Now I got to deal with my website. But I mean, that's kind of where we're at. And I think that's an important thing because I've gotten some orders since I finally opened up the store. And, that's another way, another outlet that someone may come across your product that isn't necessarily someone who watches YouTube or is aware of Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever platform you're using, Fund My Comic, but they find your website. And so it's important that product's out there and they realize that that's another place they can get it at. And that's just another way to expand your audience.
Yeah, and all you guys, Art by T-Bear is probably the best website of all time. So if you want original artwork, you want print, you want commissions, I used to sell books on there, but I pulled those down since I started crowdfunding, but I'm going to bring those back up. So remember,
that's your second Art
by T-Bear.
Remember what Art said, AndySmithArt.com is the website for choice.
My website's right under my name, so I don't even have to say it.
I didn't even say that. Yeah, yours is already.
That's
yeah,
right
mine is there too. Mine is
AaronLopresti.com is where you want to be.
Why does Andy and Art keep mispronouncing CompassComics.com? It's just
exactly.
weird.
I don't know, Dan.
I don't know what you're saying. When I say AndySmithArt.com, my brain hears what you said, Dan.
Yes,
exactly. Here, I'm going to try it again.
You know what?
Graham's website is AndySmithArt.com. Is that not what is written below his name? Because that is what I'm saying.
That's what I'm reading.
That's what I'm hearing. To cross promote and cross brand is that the first page of my website is whatever campaign is currently funding.
That's what I'm doing. So maybe I copied
you. When you go there, if it's easier to send people to CompassComics.com instead of like saying Indiegogo per se, because they go to CompassComics.com, then they'll see the link to the latest book. They can click that; it'll take them to Indiegogo,
right?
Or they can scroll down and see all the books they missed and get them.
Exactly.
So it's just easier to get people coming to one platform, I think.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. I think it's a good. That's exactly what I did. I designed it so the first thing you see when you go to AaronLopresti.com is whatever my campaign is. It says buy here, and you just click that button, and it takes you to the campaign, or you can scroll down and go to the different things that. If you want to look at art, you want to, look at the store, what other books you've missed, you can get those, that type of thing, and start funneling. I think Shane's done a really good job.
Shane's done a great job. Yeah.
Driving traffic through his website rather than these platforms. Because we've talked about this before, that the platforms at any time can turn on us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So, well, that's the biggest problem. Like when there was some, I'm not going to name names, but when there were some relationships that it had imploded along the certain paths, you realize that when there's liabilities, you want to minimize them. And at this point, the two liabilities would really be where it's sold, which is Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and the Postal Service. And that's a good place to be. No, it really is, because you can always get another printer and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you could get to the point where until you got that, I mean, Amazon figured it out. They got Amazon drivers and use the post service. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But going back to something you said, Aaron, and coming back on topic, you really got my head spinning, because my father, he's in the hospital right now. He had the same surgery I did, except on the lower part of his back, and he's still there. He's been there for 5 days, and he's gonna have to go to the rehab facility, because it's a different. First off, he's 81, and all of this has to really support is my shoulders and my head. My dad's, where they did my dad's is his whole torso, his shoulders and his head. So he's got to learn how to walk again. But I notice, because my dad is about 30 years older than I am, that his, like you were talking, the faculties start to slide a little. The lights dim a little, you're not as sharp as, things confuse you a little more, that sort of thing. And I go, okay, maybe I have 25 years. And then I think, well, that was 1999. That was yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So that's why that's really what the show is about, is really like a kick in the pants, and not just for us, because I know you guys are beautiful and all that. I really am about inspiring the people that watch us, because I do not want to see what we do go away. I want there to always be people making this stuff. I saw this thing on Instagram today, and it put a pit in my stomach. That there's this thing, I forget what it's called, but it's made by the people at South Park, where you can type in a scenario and it will generate a South Park episode for you. Okay? And they're already working on that for other IPs. So you basically have a Netflix, but you say, hey, I want to watch whatever, and I want it to be funny. It's the stuff we were talking about. It's already here, right? So it puts a little pit in your stomach, because there's all the the armchair quarterbacks, but also I also don't feel too bad, because listen, we make story because we're good at it, and we're like chefs. If someone said, hey, yeah, I want a great hamburger, and they don't even know how to make it, that they're just getting the one given to them, or they come to a master that actually knows how to do it, I think we're going to be okay. But it does scare me a bit, and oh, hold on a second. I saw Ecclesiastes. That's my favorite book of the Bible, by the way, guys. Read Ecclesiastes, enjoyed the job you're given to do. Kept being a great artist with the time you have left. Thank you, man. We got a super chat coming in. Katie Did's channel. Thank you, Katie Did. Hail CG panel and chat. We'll hail back to you, Katie Did.
You have another one, Dan, from Stealth X5.
Thank you. Let me find that.
Go up to your stars. The star comment.
Okay. Right now it says something about learn more. Man, can you guys read it?
Yeah, it's just hello from
it just
Stealth.
Says hello.
Oh, well, hello, Stealth Comics. Thank you very much. And Doug is saying it too. He says, I think comics will be around just like records. People will always want to hold the physical media. I believe that, but even if it was to go to digital, there is something about, I don't know, when someone else cooks food for you, it tastes better, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're an expert at it, and if I want story from somebody, I'm not going to come up with it and then tell it to make me entertained based on those things, because what expectations are going to happen, like,
where's the surprise?
Right. Exactly. Right. And somebody had mentioned that earlier. It was Mucky, this person here, Mucky Poo Mousy. I hit my 40s and decided to lean into it, switch about first 40 worrying. I like all the stuff you're saying, Mucky Poo. Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, Dan, like, all the stuff you're saying is like stuff I said like 10, 15 years ago. Like, you're still thinking kind of like my headspace isn't the same. Like, you're worried about the industry, things like that. Well, I was too. But now it's like I've come to the realization this is not ours anymore. This is somebody else's. Somebody else is going to take these things and do what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
So even AI is a tool. So we could go, well, it's not the tool we use, and it's all these things that are bad, but somebody will figure out how to use it in a very creative way, and move forward with it. So there's always that. So at this point, I don't even pretend to like, oh, I need to understand that, or I need to know what the current thing is, or I need to make sure that my craft doesn't die. Like some people, especially Comic Book Bob says, Art, you need to teach inking. You need to talk about this stuff, the traditional aspects, because it's dying. I'm like, well, maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe you know, we move on to other things, digital to new and other things. Like for me, like
Wow.
I'm not going to get stuck on the past. Like I don't want
That's
to be
a
there and
whole
go,
other
"Oh, like
conversation.
this is a traditional like thing, and I want to make sure that everybody. You brought it up about
No,
comics.
I know what I'm saying is I am enjoying that you're bringing it up. I'm saying this is a topic that's worth discussing because of viewpoints. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
that, like the idea of cursive being gone, right? Because people
Right.
clickety clack.
Oh yeah.
Think of all the
Yeah.
documents that were written in cursive, you
Mhm.
know, and like pray that those are backed up. And I don't
Well,
know.
at the very least, that people know how to read them, because it could be like this forgotten language. You know, like they don't teach it to kids, so they're not going to be able to
Why
read.
learn how to read anymore when no? You're
Read
right.
the
Reading,
people. What is that? I
reading,
don't know.
but reading could go the way. You know what I'm saying? Like if everything is voice command, why would you need to type? Right? Like
Well,
why would
that's what I thought. Hey, that's what I thought. Okay, we had phones, right? And so then these portable things, it's like nobody really talks on them. They text. Like, what is that?
Right.
You know, and then we have computers and people type. Like I was thinking, like, yeah, like you, like this would go away. But it seems like it's used more now than it ever. Like I type and do stuff more than I ever have before. You
Well,
know?
think about
Right.
this. Let's think about this abstractly. First, I want to say thank you to the almost 600 people watching. We're on Twitter right now. We're on multiple channels.
Nice.
Thank you so much. We are talking about mortality, but more so, again, talking about the future. Yeah, dude, I don't know. I think that
We're
this
headed
is
for Wallyville or Terminator 2. I think you
right.
get to a point
Oh.
where everything that's being created is to make us do less as
right.
human
Well,
beings. And at some point, that's going to collapse on itself.
But it will, and I think it has before, because think about this. What is the purpose of writing? Let's just get abstract with it and say, what is the purpose of writing? It's to leave a record of information for somebody. It's and that record either can be replicated and given to many. It can be in a place where someone stops and sees it, or it could be sent somewhere. All of those things have been replaced literally, right? You can get to everybody. You're a book in the library. If you're a video on YouTube, you're a book in a library. Right. And they don't have to read it. They can be very passive, and reading isn't passive. It requires a little bit of work, right? And you take getting information at all. Like, wouldn't you rather walk up to a museum and have it tell you about the painting than have to sit there reading the little thing? You know,
It's
like
easier.
Yeah, well, it's much easier, but I'm talking about your Wally thing, man. Yo, my man Dennis Shin. Good to see you, brother. Thank you for the super chat. He says he's glad to see I am recovered. Yeah, buddy, I'm glad to be back. Look at no hands. The hands don't shake anymore. I still got the pain. I'm not cleared to drive till the 12th, but praise the Lord is what I got to say.
Amen.
Oh yeah.
But
So you're not allowed to drive, huh? Wow.
steady as a rock. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I shoot with this hand.
Yeah, but I should. Yeah, right.
Oh
Yeah.
shit, Dan, you gave it to me. You said that wouldn't happen.
Hey, you know what though? That's only because you licked my fingers.
Oh,
I know.
my gosh.
I said wear a condom. Damn it, Dan.
On your
Kevin
finger?
Thomas, he says, adding
Yeah.
your dad in my business. Anytime I get a book from any of you, it's a special thing. I could feel the love that went in the project. Digital just doesn't hit the same. Exactly.
Oh yeah, digital. No.
You know, that's digital is a-okay, but again, like when you were saying, Aaron, that it could all go poof and go away, it's going to collapse in on itself. They're discovering things about the Egyptians that all the time that are like, oh shit, they did have electric power. Oh shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like they communicated with pictographs, you know.
Think about it. All we need is China to put a bug in our grid and have everything go kaput. Then suddenly you can't communicate anymore.
Right.
More importantly, you can't read comics.
Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly.
If you got them on paper, you can just
That's
light a
what I mean.
candle.
Yeah, that's right.
Like
You
Gabe
can't.
Logan.
You won't be able to because yours are all slabbed.
He'll crack them open.
Hey, look I have like 1,500 books in my collection. Only like 50 of them are slabbed. All right.
Okay.
Jeez.
But you know what? There are a
Really?
lot of people that are even buying older Blu-rays or DVDs or video because they're unedited. Like a lot of the newer
Yeah.
releases and stuff like that, like especially Disney,
They
uptight
can do what they want.
control. Yeah, they're like editing these things. So if you want the pure
Yep.
form of something, you have to go back and get it. But at the same time, like the other day, I'm in the car with my wife and we're talking, and I'm like, it comes in waves. Like you realize rock and roll is dead. It's like your dad, it's like your dad's jazz. You know what I mean? Like it still kind of exists. There's still, like when my daughter was young, there was a place called Chain Reaction. Some of the LA
I remember
clubs
Chain Reaction.
still had like bands and stuff. But you look at them, and these guys are trying their, they're working their ass off. They're writing songs, they're performing things. But you realize they're never going to be Journey. There's never going to be a Toto. There's never going to be these bands again because there just isn't the infrastructure, and there just isn't. I don't even know if it's the demand, like people want it or they don't want it, but there just is no infrastructure to bring it. So in a way, it is kind of dying. And you guys were talking, I think you were talking about music earlier, Dan, about just like producing it yourself. Well, Avenged Sevenfold, Motley Crue, a lot of these bands, they're not even new bands. Some of them are a lot older than others, but they have their own production. They're doing their own thing. Like they have their own record. They book the studio time. They do all that stuff themselves. And even like Iron Maiden, those guys, that singer pilots the jet, like with the stage stuff. Like these guys are like Gorilla, like these guys are like indie, like they're still these big bands, but they're dealing with it kind of on an indie level.
Well, I think that something gets created, like a genre or something gets created, whether it's music, comics, whatever. And there's a period of time where no one's doing it, right? And so then here comes, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and suddenly there's this whole new wave of stuff that no one had ever thought of. And then everybody just does it to death until it disappears. And rock and roll in the 70s, how did it evolve from the Beatles to, to Zeppelin to Metallica or whatever? And then pretty soon, what Gene Simmons said specifically about the music was, he goes, rock and roll's dead. He goes, and I'll prove it. He goes, where's Journey? Where are the Beatles? Where are all these? And his thing is because it's already been done so much that when we're all like building on the top of what someone else has already done, but you can only take it so far before the new thing has to come along and replace it. And I think that's sort of the inevitability of all of this stuff.
Well,
and we may be on, maybe we're on the tail end of comics.
The two things that I'm getting from this is, one, it's still everything that we would ever dream of wanting to do. That kid wanting to have music be their livelihood, essentially. Right. They can still do it, but the way is different. The old way of going and gigging and driving in your van town to town and college campuses, that way is over. Now it's, playing on Indiegogo, or not Indiegogo, but Instagram, or putting your songs on some TikTok. Maybe it's just a different way, but the avenues are still there. Though, all of that said, the one thing that's really hurts my feelings about music is, it does. It hurts me in the.
It hurts me right here.
Yeah, it does. No, it's the idea of the disposable nature of music now. Like, and you look and you see, like, especially pop music, the music, that my kids listen to, not so much, but because I try to wheel them in. But the 20 producers, right? Like, it's all committee made, and they're thinking AI can do it, and you can get any song you want on a streaming service for free. It's not like you saved your lawn money to go buy that vinyl record that took you through high school. It's not the same thing. It doesn't mean the same thing anymore. But people will still want it, and I truly believe that AI being AI, it'll get to a certain point where there's a homogeny, and people just innately will crave that human soul. I want to get the super chat. Comic Books in the Cahoots, thank you. He says Dave Stevens or Mark Schultz. I know
Dave Stevens.
Dave Stevens. I love them both. But
I do too, but I'll go Dave Stevens.
I
Why? Not why would you take that, but why those two?
Probably that
Similar
Frazetta-esque light
influences.
line,
Hmm.
the love of
Similar
Frazetta.
influences, I think. I think
Yeah.
here's what I'd say, and Mark's a friend of mine. And so if he happens to be watching, don't take this personal. But I think that I think Dave Stevens is a better artist, drawer. Is that even a word? But Schultz's inking, I think, is beyond for that style of inking.
It's
That
nice
sort of
line.
it's
Yeah.
beyond
Well,
reproach.
Gary
his
Martin,
inking.
Gary
But I would
Martin lives
take-
in that same land, right?
If I would take Dave as the artist and then Mark as the inker, but Mark is also a brilliant artist, so I'm not saying that he
Well,
isn't.
also, I think Dave Stevens creates something that really connected, that resonated with people.
You're talking about Jenny? You're talking about Jenny?
Rocketeer.
Oh,
With
you
Rocketeer.
mean that flying guy in that Jenny comic?
Yeah. And then Mark Schultz was the Cadillac and Dinosaurs, right?
Yeah.
Is that and that's a little lesser known. That IP was there. We all loved it, but it just didn't quite have that iconic feel to it. So I think Dave was able to tap into the zeitgeist. He was able to tap into pop culture, and then it didn't hurt that Disney picked it up and made a movie out of it as well.
And it was a good movie, so that didn't hurt
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Carol and Tuesday is a wonderful anime about this concept. Yeah, isn't it interesting that retro, regardless of you can change your decade you're referring to. Like for us when we were kids, it was the 50s. Now for kids, it's the 80s. It's like retro. But
Shit, I'd almost say it's the 90s.
well,
Hey, no, you want your feelings hurt, guys? Truly
No.
hurt your feelings. If
I know
Marty
what you're going to
McFly-
say, I
If
bet.
Marty McFly went back
I knew
today,
it.
he'd be going to 1994.
Yep. How
No, I could
crazy is
drink
that?
already. I could already drink alcohol then.
But
Yeah.
my point was there's a certain thing about nostalgia when you get to a certain point that you can go back and you bring that back and everybody loves it and it feels new, like the Rocketeer.
Right.
That's what I was getting to was that Schultz did sort of this Stone Age. None of us lived when there was dinosaurs, so you can't really kind of harken back to a record of that. But there is, that 40s is such a romanticized period of time because of World War II. And then we've all seen the movies. Everybody's seen, a Cary Grant movie or whatever, no matter how old you are, you've had some exposure to it. And then Dave goes back and grabs that and, puts it in front of an 80s audience and people just loved it. Whereas
I think the themes are more universal as well. It's a guy that there's this girl and she's slightly out of his league, and he's pursuing her and he doesn't feel quite like that he's good enough. And, and then she's off when this Hollywood thing being wooed by these other cooler people. And, so I think people can always there's relatability to
Sure.
it. Where if you ask me for the character themes of Cadillacs and dinosaurs and stuff like the character beats, I couldn't tell you. It's just like these great visuals, this great high concept, but not necessarily characters that really connect in a deeper way. And then those things become timeless and universal. So those things can go on, forever. And that's the problem, I think, with modern storytelling, like Disney and these different companies. People that are making things, they don't understand that it still has to connect to the human, our human connect and be honest and true. Otherwise, it's not going to really connect with anybody. And so that's one thing I think will get lost or is getting lost with the committee stuff. And then definitely AI, AI will just emulate those things, but it's not going to be able to create it through experience. It's not going to be able, create it because of something that writer felt or experienced or lived through. And those are the things that are going to connect. Those are the things that are real.
That's an excellent point, Art, because I just watched Furiosa, and I did a review on my
so did
channel
I.
on Sunday, and it was the best looking, well directed beautiful piece of crap I've ever seen.
I wasn't ready for that.
It was pointless. It was
Oh,
soulless, and
dude, I was going to say the same thing.
it
You
was
took the
like
words right out of my mouth. You
there-
said it was, and my head went pointless.
it was there was no reason for that movie to be made, and at the end of
No.
it, you were like, I still got nothing out of this, but it looked great. And it was well acted, and everything about it looked like a good movie, but it wasn't, because it was like AI without a soul. And no offense to George Miller, who I love, but and there's many other reasons why that movie is not what it should be that we don't necessarily need to get into here. But
you just didn't need we didn't need an Origin of Furiosa movie,
Right?
You know,
pointless. There was nothing. There was no reason for it to exist. But it looked great, and it's like AI. You look at that and you go, God, this is just saccharine. It's just like airbrush painting on the side of a van in the 70s. You're just so sick of it. I mean, I was anyway. It was cool for a while, but then you're
Let
like,
it out.
don't airbrush any more Frazetta pieces
Let
on
it
the side of
out.
your van.
So wait a minute. You know what the takeaway is here is that Andy found a movie he didn't like.
Oh, there's
I'm still
more.
looking for what I like.
But yeah, it was a great looking movie, but it was at the end of it, you know, spoiler alert, it ends right where the Mad Max movie from, what was it, 10 years ago starts.
Fury Road.
Yeah, Fury Road. And you're just like,
that was 10 years ago?
Has it been 10 years?
I think that's what they said, 2014.
Well, that's what I'm talking about time being undefeated. We got shit to do, guys.
The one with what's his face and
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy. Yeah.
Holy
Isn't that
shit,
remarkable?
10
to think
years
it was
ago.
10 years ago. You know, I did like a talk in front of a comic book audience along with Frank Cho and Terry Dodson and some other people. And one of the points I made, we were just talking about being creative and kind of similar to what we're talking about here without the age thing. But I told everybody, and I did the same thing when I pissed off a bunch of women in a Weight Watchers meeting once.
Oh my God.
Is
in a Weight Watchers meeting?
I want to
dude,
hear.
I was the only guy in there.
that too.
Shelly wanted me to do it with her, so I said okay, and I just kicked everybody's butt. You know, I ended up losing 20 pounds, and no, I don't think anybody else lost any weight at all. And I said the same thing to these artist people. I said, look, whatever that time frame you've got, let's say I want to have a comic book done by this time next year, right? You say that in your mind, or I want to lose X amount of pounds over the next 6 months. And this is what I said to both of them. I said, that time is going to go by whether you do it or not. And the worst feeling is when that 6 months goes by and you go, why didn't I lose any weight? Because I didn't dedicate myself to the plan. I didn't follow through with it. Why didn't I get that comic book done? It's because I just thought about doing it, but I didn't sit down and I didn't do the work. And I didn't do
Hey, Dan, highlight Paul Taylor's comment, because that's exactly what Aaron said in that meeting.
Not exactly.
Paul was the only other guy in that meeting, apparently.
That may have been what they heard, but the idea is time.
No, you're right. That time goes by
regardless.
The time goes by no matter what.
Right. So you might as well do something productive in it. So when that time passes, you have something to show for that time that just went by.
Right.
We all understand it because, like I used to say, like my career goes down to minutes and seconds, like seconds and minutes. Like sometimes, like to get that FedEx, to get that guy at 3:30 every day or whatever it is, like I'm going down to seconds, you know, like sometimes I'll be running it out to that guy while I'm filling a black or something like that. Right. So you realize like how much you can get done in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Like you micromanage as a creative person, you micromanage every freaking minute because you realize that. And then you start becoming very, very conscientious of the time that's going past because you go, I got 10 minutes. I got to get this panel done.
What can I do? Right. Or you could just look at something else on the page, or maybe, you know, we're all juggling multiple things, even if we're just working on, you know, the one book, like Aaron was working on Kit Carter. There's still other things where it's like Aaron could be like, I've got 15 minutes. Okay, it's not enough really to draw anything, I could send out a post about it, or I could do this,
Mhm.
you know? So it's never, oh, I only have 5 minutes. I can't do anything. It's, oh, I've got 5 minutes. What can I do in that 5
It's like
minutes?
a shark doesn't sleep, right? It's always swimming,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
But I
Hey,
remember
Every step, no matter how small, gets you to that finish line.
exactly little
Right.
steps. I remember talking to Mike Carlin.
Art,
Oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Art. I have a joke at your expense. No, I'm just kidding. Look at him. Hey,
Art's smile went away
every
pretty
time,
quickly.
every time Art the Bear
Aw.
describes those buzzer beaters, I imagine him pulling out Mentos and snapping one off, going, "The Fresh Maker." He's got the fucking box. He's leaping over cars and shit. All right, carry on.
No. But I remember I was having a hard time with getting things done, and then Mike Carlin said, he said, well, how much time are you putting in? I go, well, 10 hours, 12-hour days. He goes, really? He said, well, how many times do you get up a day? What else do you do while you're working? All these things. He said, you know what? He said, keep a tab on everything. So when you get up, log the time. So when
Right.
you sit down, log the time. When you get up, log the time.
Wait a
And you will
minute.
find out that you are spending far less time actually drawing than you think. And I did
Right.
that. And I tell you, man, that dude was one of the best mentors I ever had, because
Art was like, man, 10-hour days. I just logged all my time away from my desk and it was 9 hours and 45 minutes. No wonder I don't get anything done.
Isn't he?
I still
isn't
have 15 minutes. Yeah.
Carlin's the same guy that screamed at you one word when you said, "I'm doing the best I can," and he screamed, "Catheter," and then hung up.
Yeah. Just piss in a tube and never leave the table. Yeah, but I thought it was great advice. And then I started going, well, if I can do 6 panels in 10 hours, then see if I can do 7 panels in that same amount of time. So then just keep doing it incrementally. Just do like small steps. And then before you know it, you have another page that you're able to do in that same amount of time. So just keep pushing yourself in small increments. And then also, like I said, you start realizing how much time really means and how much you can do in a shorter amount of time.
Where did Andy go?
I
He
bored him.
couldn't take it anymore.
He couldn't
I
take it.
think he
I hurt his
You know-
feelings.
Well, Art, it becomes super obvious when you're working with a broad timeline, right? It's like, I got to get Kit Carter done in 6 months or 8 months, right? And you're kind of, but then you get down to like that last week and you go, gosh darn it, this needs to be done by this time so I can get it to the colorist and letter and all that kind of stuff, right? So then suddenly now your focus heightens. And instead of saying, oh yeah, I drew for 6 hours today, but you got up like 10 times in between and went to the computer. Now you just work for 6 hours without getting up because this doggone thing has to get done. And then you realize how much you can actually get done when you can stay focused and work. And that's the hard thing. We got so many distractions, especially when we have to promote ourselves.
Yeah.
You get onto the computer and say, okay, I'm going to post this on Facebook and Twitter, and then I'm going to get back to work. But then you see a video and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. And then pretty soon you have a 30-minute rabbit hole that you went down. You're like, what was I sitting down here?
Or somebody emails you or the colorist has a question and you realize it's not going to be a quick answer. Like, I'm going to have to take this, I'm going to have to download it, I'm going to have to do a visual take on it so he can see what I'm talking about. And that's another thing that's really, really interesting about doing what we do. It's like, I'm not a colorist. I don't do certain things. So it's kind of like you have to learn those things, and then you have to learn how to communicate those things. So when you need a fix or you need a change or whatever it is, like, you have to start realizing, well, how do I say this to somebody? So most of the time I'll just take it, I'll bring it into Photoshop, and I'll just like draw arrows or like little circles around things and stuff like that. And then I'll send it back to them with an abbreviated message instead of trying to type everything in, because there's a visual language and then there's
so
an actual
essentially
written
what you're saying is you reverted back to your cave when you worked in the caveman days of cave drawing and just
Exactly. It's so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, we should all be drawing right now.
Yeah, well, you know what? I know tongue in cheek, but the truth is the new model
the new model requires this.
Yes.
You know, and
Right.
but it's also a super blessing. You know, like when Art was saying earlier, talking about comic book Bob saying you should teach people the ink, and you're kind of like, maybe it should die. I'm of the other mind of like, no, those real principles. Those are real principles that, like, we learned. I understand a digital tool because I know the analog tool. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a tighter connection to it. There's Andy Smith. There he is. There
My
he
internet
is.
we've got storms going on and my internet went down. So I'm
Yeah,
on my
that
phone.
same thing happened to mine earlier.
Yeah. Stupid internet.
Stupid.
Now we get a
internet.
different view of your cave there.
Yeah, Andy's studio looks like a comic shop. Look at that.
You know?
Well,
Where's the
dude,
cash
I love-
register in the front desk?
I love his studio.
You'll be here next Thursday.
I know, it's gonna be awesome. Gonna be
But
awesome.
the thing, what I really meant by that is like it's me personally. It's not necessarily the industry, because I have taught inking like for decades. Like,
I know
there's a lot of great people that are out in the industry. So I feel like I've already contributed back to the industry.
You
know,
have.
I gave a lot of skill and a lot of opportunity to a lot of people that are successful now because they came out of Hack Shack Studios. So I'm kind of coming from a different point of view. Like, I don't really want to do that anymore. You know, like
I mean, you've done, to your credit, you have done a lot. And like I said earlier, you know, planting seeds for trees that you'll never enjoy their shade. You know what I'm saying? Like that idea of the future of what we do. That's why whenever I meet any kids that draw, I encourage the heck out of them. Like, draw. I send them over to Mark Kistler, who was the, Commander Mark when I was a kid, that taught me to draw. So that it's very ingrained in me to get that out there, because also when you think about it, it is absolutely the least expensive thing that a kid could do, really, other than whittling. But then maybe not even whittling, I don't know.
Whittling.
Sit there fucking you're making little smokies out of soap,
and they say I'm a caveman.
I don't know, Dan. I remember
Whittling.
somebody telling me when you said you were bored, it'd be bricks. And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, no, bricks is a motivator, baby. But no, it's super cheap, dude. What is this? And even a cheap sketchbook you can get at Walmart for $5. That you can create worlds. And I think
I always encourage, because drawing, whether you're a colorist, whether you're an inker, whether you're a writer, whatever, all those skills can be translated over. You know what I mean? So if you know how to construct a figure, or composition, perspective, those type of things, then that's always going to help you with whatever it is that you end up doing. Because I think even a lot of writers, good writers, know how to lay out a page. They know how storytelling should work. That type of thing visually, not just the written word, which I do think is lacking in a lot of people's. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, if there was some of this, like, hand down this to the next generation, that type of thing. But also, I think we have a generation right now that doesn't even want to fucking listen. Like, they don't care. They have contempt for what it is you're saying. So there are some people that look for it, and it's there if they want it. But I don't think they really want it. Like, when I came up the ranks, like Marvel, there was a bullpen. There were people that were openly ready to help you. There were editors that would talk you through the process. Like, most of us were diamonds in the rough. Like, we didn't come with all our skills.
The Carl Potts or the Mike Carlin, that kind of editor doesn't exist, or Archie Goodwin, that kind of editor doesn't exist anymore.
Because those guys don't exist. Like most of those editors that work now probably don't even have those experiences.
They don't have the skill set. They're not
They don't have the experience. They don't have the skill set, so they can't tell anybody.
They're not even good proofreaders.
Yeah.
They
know all about Pride Month, though.
Yeah, my buddy sent me.
Oh, by the way, happy Pride Month, guys!
Happy Pride Month, Andy.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Andy, happy
buddy.
Pride
Yeah,
Month, man.
Andy.
I'll show you your wife next week, Dan.
We all wish Andy a happy Pride Month.
I'm going to be mighty proud to be at your house, pal. No, it's man, losing my
That's
train.
going to be a
No,
very
here it is. There it is.
Professionals next week.
There's sort of a pendulum, right? And I know there's a term for it's generational something cycle. Chat, maybe you can help me. I'm going to talk about the concept, and you guys can find what it is. But it's kind of if you take the hard times make hard men, men make easy times make soft men make hard times.
Right.
When you look at that generationally, and you think about like my grandfather, he was born in 1917, so I know for sure he saw some shit, shit that I've never had to see. And made it through and knew what that was like, knew what and raised my dad through the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then you got all these kids, your guys' age and born in the 60s and such, that were raised by those people. And you guys, like, my kids are young. I started late or whatever, but I'm still Gen X. Some of you guys are, maybe. Art, you're not. I don't know. Are you?
Art and I are
Art's a
boomers.
boomer. I'm the
You guys
last
are.
year of
You guys are legit boomers.
I'm the last year of the boomers.
Okay,
1964.
so you got 3 X's, whatever. But the thing is my kids, like, I don't know, they're Gen Alpha or whatever. Oh my God. Speaking. Hi. She's so funny.
Good one. Good one.
That was a good one, baby.
That was great.
You say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Hi, sweetie.
Yeah. She going to bed. We were just talking about you guys. So yeah, by the time she's have a good one, baby girl. I love you. I love you. See ya. Yeah, by the time she's my age, it's gonna be like 2070.
2070. Holy shit.
Yeah, like when they said we went to her kindergarten thing, that she's in pre-K and she's going into kindergarten. It says we're excited to welcome the class of 2037. Right?
Oh,
Holy shit.
Yeah, feel that, guys.
Lord.
Feel that, guys.
Wasn't
But-
that when
but-
Planet of the Apes took place?
Yeah, I
I
know.
think so. I think so. But
Damn dirty.
what I'm saying
You're gonna have
is
your walker all
the-
picked
the-
out for that graduation.
there's right. No, there's this guy. He's on Instagram. He's funny because he talks in this sort of colonial. In my day, he's called Dad Bod Veteran, and he shows Gen X and well, mostly Gen Z and alphas and millennials do stupid shit, and he kind of course corrects them from a Gen X point of view. Very funny stuff, but it's kind of interesting looking at it that way when you can look behind you and know what was, and look ahead of you and see what's coming, and just be like, well, I see why Art's the way he is. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I like that.
Somebody,
I mean that in the best way, Art.
somebody,
Yeah,
in the
sure.
chat, somebody in
Sure
the chat had a good question where he said, or a comment where he just said that he feels too old to feel like he can get anything accomplished. And it made me think of this. And I want to get you guys' opinion on this, because I've thought about this a lot recently. And it's like, because you see guys that worked in the industry, for example, and were very, very big and successful and wrote a lot of stuff, Frank Miller, guys like that. And they don't seem to have anything right now at their age that is all that interesting whenever they do a project, right? And so I sit there and I wonder, if you're young, say 25, 27, say you're Frank Miller, I don't know how old he was when he took over Daredevil, but let's use him for an example. And he goes, and you start when you're young or youngish, and you do all these great things, right? Wrightson, was great up until, after Frankenstein, and he sort of fell off a cliff, right? Artistically. And it's like, so everybody has, let's say you take all the creative people in the world and put them on, just say they all have X amount of creative ideas in their head, good ideas. And so when they're young, they start putting out these ideas like Frank Miller did, one after the other. It was great, 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 great. And then you get to be 60 years old, and it's like, what have you got left, right? But then you look at a lot of us, And we didn't get the opportunity like Frank Miller did, because we had these great ideas. Because like a lot of the stuff I'm doing right now, stuff I created in the 90s, but no one would publish it, right? So here we are later in our careers doing essentially the most creative and best stuff that we've ever done, because we've been sitting on this stuff and we haven't used it all up yet.
Right.
And so I think that I don't think age is the factor as much as opportunity, because we all had like really great ideas, but we didn't have the opportunity to exploit them. Now we do. So now we're 60 years old and doing the best stuff of our career, or 50 something or whatever it is. And so I think that is a factor. I mean, maybe you guys would disagree, but I think that is a factor of when you get the opportunity to put this stuff out there.
It's huge. It's huge. When I think back about what I wanted when I wanted to be a comic artist, you know what you think the job is when you're a kid and you go, I get to sit and draw all day, and you think this is what it is. And then when I came in, when I did, which was the 90s, the image explosion, which is not even the same model that came before it of the 80s, the shooter era, that I came up in a different thing. But then there became we talked about this in other episodes, the gatekeeping of the hero magazines, the wizard magazines, all this sort of thing that, anybody doing great work can be overshadowed by, top 10 lists and articles and features and shows promoting and putting other guys in the shadows. I can honestly say I am so glad that we're past that. I am so glad that you don't have to have hat in hand begging. Your talent's there, but you don't. You got to fucking schmooze. Fuck off. You know what I mean? Like I hated that shit. I just wanted to draw a comic.
All we have to do is win over the reader. All we have to do is go direct to the source, the people that are going to back the book. And also what showed me is when there was a lockdown, right? And Marvel, and they were like pencils down, and they were like toting like, oh, the industry just shut down and stopped. Well, guess what? I kept going. Stop. We kept going. Right. We were going direct to the consumer. We were still selling books. We were still doing that. So you know what I mean? Like, this is a superior business model, and you can't shut this down because it isn't gate kept. It isn't reliant on all these other things. It's a direct route right to the consumer. We draw it, we print it, we send it out, to the backers. And so as long as there are printers and as long as those people are still in business, then we can, unless we're going to start our own, printing companies, which why not, right?
Well,
that's the worst idea.
It's not the worst idea if it was a consortium, but it would have to be something like with people that, this is off topic, but like I do it with you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
That's my statement. I do it with the guys on screen right here, for sure.
Definitely not Billy though.
But now that Billy's not here, fuck, I would never say that shit. I take you guys.
Well, that was said with such conviction, man. I don't know where it came from.
Clip it.
Yeah, no.
That's what happens when you miss an episode. You become a target.
Yeah, that's right, Billy. These are it's the Iron Age, as they say.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I think that sort of thing. What we are able to do is look outside ourselves in other industries. Like I mentioned, DJ Alchemist. This wasn't some niche thing. This is what the fucking music business is god awful, guys. I think I mentioned last week, it might be a fever dream, but John Bellion was talking about Live Nation, the people that own all these stadiums, give them $1 million advance and say you have to pay us back. But to pay them back, he would have to sell 36 sellout shows, and he's only making money from the tickets sold. Okay. Meanwhile, they make $4 million a show from peanuts, parking, and alcohol, and their portion of the ticket, but they're taking his advance out of that $1 million. So that's happening with record labels. Record labels have these things called 360 deals now, where the bands used to back in the day go, okay, fine, you get my masters, you get my poet, whatever, but we got the merch. If I make a fan club, if I have it, no. Record companies have their fingers in that shit now too. The guys that are making, the guys that are making the money are the small time guys that you don't know their names. If I said Tech Nine to you,
you'd go, I don't know who that is. And I could say that's a rapper from the 90s who pulls in very high 6-figure income every year and does what he loves. And he's our age and he's a fucking rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like when you look at that and go, hey, he's got maybe 3,000 fans and those fans are there for him. And, you know, if like my idea as far as my music is I can get people to buy my music whether or not they like my music or not by making what comes with your record an exclusive print or a poster at the same price as a print or a poster. You just get an album with it.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
That's an excellent point, and Andy can speak to this better than I. But we both did books. He's done several for Watson Guptill, right? And the book I did for them, I never saw a penny other than the $5,000 advance I got for doing the book, which took me, you know, months and months to do. So it was like a drop in the bucket. But because the sales weren't there, or at least the money that they made during the sales went back to them, never got to me. So I could take that same book right now and crowdfund it, even if I just raised, you know, $10,000 or $12,000, it'd be way more than I made putting it through Watson Guptill, you know.
Right.
And
I have a very recent example. You know my book, The Grave, the one that I did 365 a panel a day for a year. My book, when all was said and done with my deal with IDW, and I own the property 100%. When all was said and done, I was in comic stores, I was in Barnes and Noble, and I was in Scholastic Books. Upside down, $750.
Oh, even on Scholastic? Holy crap!
Yes, upside down. And I went so far as to buy my backstock back because I believe in it, and I can go sell them at shows. And when I do the masterpiece edition and I crowdfund the one that's full color with the bells and whistles, the one that there's only 1,400 copies of, that thing's going to be worth money.
dude,
You know what I'm saying?
You know how many copies of Garbage Man I've sold that trade paperback? I published it through Dark Horse, made zero cash, other than the little bit of advance I got to pay for the extra pages I had to do to get rid of Batman and put in my own characters. And now I'm buying all those books back from Dark Horse. You know, so the advance they gave me, I've more than given them back in sales of their own book, but then I turn around and sell them on my own campaign. Right. And I'm actually reaching an audience that wants to buy that book.
They're there for you.
Apparently, you know, Dark Horse wasn't able to do that, or it wasn't the right property for Dark Horse. I'm not going to put it on them, but I'm just going to say that again, getting back to this whole idea of going through bookstores or going through comic book shops is really, as an independent creator, is a no-win situation. I hate to say that because I love comic shops and I got a lot of friends that own comic shops, but we can do so much better and with so much less doing it ourselves direct to customer.
Well, yeah, and with your idea for Aaron Con, that idea, just take it and kind of abstract it out. It's a brilliant idea because when we go to a convention, Rob Liefeld said this to me one time when we were first patching things up back in 2014. He was telling me about his mindset about going to conventions. Bless you, Graham. Going to conventions and looking at it as a pie. And if he'd go, if Stan Lee is there, this piece of the pie is taken out of how much money is being spent at the convention. This much is being spent on this. This much is being spent on this. But he wanted to make sure he carved a piece out before people ever went to the show. So he would do exclusives that they pick up at the show. So, but the idea is that he went direct to his fan, much like you do with your Aaron Con and much like we do with our shows. The idea, though, is they're not going to be searching for a platinum needle in a needle stack. They're going to have the precise location because they're, like you said, they're there for you. They're there for all of us. You know?
I remember I had a conversation with Scott Rosenberg. He's a Platinum Studios guy.
I remember Scott
and Men in Black, and he wanted to pick up Chrono Mechanics in black and white. And Platinum is kind of like it's a catalog of IP. So they got a lot. That whole Rob Liefeld's, all that debacle kind of came from some of that Rosenberg deal.
I know Scott very well.
And so I remember talking to Scott, and Scott's making these offers, and I'm like, so there's no money up front. There's none of this, right? No. I said, so there's this big catalog of all these professionals, all these IPs, right? So then how do you market it? How do you sell it? And he was dumbfounded that anybody even asked him that. And I said, how? He said, well, I don't. I said, so then how does Chrono Mechanics come up at a pitch meeting? He goes, it doesn't. And I said, then how do you pitch my book? He said, they look through the catalog, they see something they like, and then they call me. And I said, so I would be giving you my IP, like somewhat of an exclusive, like 2 years, whatever the hell it is, and then you don't really do anything. And then he goes, well, I wouldn't put it that way.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
So it's kind of one of those things where you think like, oh, this guy had these great franchises, these big movies made, this guy's a producer, all this stuff, right? So you think he can get things done, right? But then you realize, no, because like you said, that little pin, you're just kind of getting lost in all of this other stuff. But if you can, even if it's a narrower search or a narrower fan base, you can do better in that smaller arena than the big. And it really has proven these last couple of years to be the truth. And we do live in some great times right now where we have these options that we don't have to, go to the Rosenbergs of the world or the DCs and Marvels, like you were saying, Dan, or schmooze like magazines to try to, get some.
Dude, I would hit. I'll tell you this right now, and this is just the way it is, because I'm fresh out of fucks. The idea of BarCon after San Diego. Like the last thing I want to do is go up into a fucking crowded room of drunk people and talk. But I know I got to go up there because I might run into an editor and tell him that I really want to work on his shit. And you know what I'm saying? Like, fuck that.
Oh my God, dude, I'm right there with you. That part was just the drag of going to that show, was doing that stuff at night. It was just like,
I want to hang with my homies and be like, yo, you're in town. Let's go fucking hang out.
Exactly.
I never did that. And that was my biggest probably downfalls. I never schmoozed. Never.
Yeah, well,
and
I
I want to address something in the chat real quick, just for clarification. Blue Samurai says the Garbage Man crowdfunded didn't make it, so I had to buy a Dark Horse copy. Right. Okay. Number one, I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't handle that correctly. But my point was simply that the success of Wraith of God allowed me then to sell Garbage Man, because people were like, oh, this is good. What else you got? Right. And so I'm still, regardless of how it all played out in the long term, I've been able to sell way more copies of Garbage Man than Dark Horse was able to.
Right.
That's kind of my point. Despite, it took me a couple levels to get there. But anyway, that was.
We're at the hour and 43-minute mark almost, and we're approaching 700 viewers right now. I just want to thank every one of you for being here. We're on multiple platforms and channels. Those of you who don't know, every one of us has our own YouTube channel and our own handles on X. You can find us. We are the Brofessionals. Today we're missing our compatriot Billy Tucci, but we'll be back next week by seeing him. But I want to thank everybody for being here so far. We're just talking, the original concept was just the future comics and in our mortality, getting our ideas out and, really just putting things in a perspective, roundtable conversation. We're having a good time. And I want to invite the chat. If you guys have any questions for us over the next minute, pop them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. Different format, What's up, Aaron?
Oh, no, I was just thumbs up somebody in the chat.
Yeah.
Hey,
so,
Aaron, I got a question for you. On the book that you did for Watson Guptill, did you ever get the form to fill out so the rights revert back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. I just
want I could do something with it.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's interesting. Alex Morales wants us to do a pitch of our latest project. So, if you guys want to do the 30-second elevator, that'd be a good time to do it.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Andy Smith, you're up.
Oh, I'm up first. God, I hate going first. Fine.
You're last, Andy. Graham, you go.
Graham's first. I'm last because I
You're
come
last.
back in because my internet died.
Loser.
Shut up.
My latest project is Joe Frankenstein. It's the third in the Joe Frankenstein saga, and we're going to find out more about Joe's grandfather, great grandfather, and the monster as they comb through the pyramids of Egypt looking for the Eye of Ra, a staff that once vanquished the vampire horde from the ancient Egyptians.
Cool.
Lepresti.
I got Kit Carter Planet Doom graphic novel, which, by the way, I just finished the last page.
Yeah.
And, so Matt Ryan's only 7 pages behind me on the inking, and as far as Kelsey keeps telling me he's almost done, so he's right behind us. And so yeah, it's going to be getting through the script changes, get the lettering done, get put together. But we're moving along. But anyway, the elevator pitch is it's a humorous look at 50s sci-fi with a hot babe. So it'd be like, I loved your elevator pitch, Graham, for, would you say, Apartment 3G meets
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that's, like, bam, there's the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, Forbidden Planet meets Marilyn Monroe. How's that?
There you go.
Oh yeah.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh yeah, cha. RT Bear.
Yeah, well, I got this art book that I am putting out. Can you share screen? So this is Oodle Doodles and other stuff too. This thing completely sold out. We had original print run of 500. I have currently been checking these things out on eBay. These things are going for $100 now. So you guys have been asking, how do I get a copy? Well, I'm going to go back to print. We're going to create a new version of this book. So we're going to get a new cover with stretch goals. I'm going to add 8 new pages. A lot of Comicsgate art is going to be brought into this book. So this is a coffee table art book, like high-end art book. It's beautifully done, beautifully printed. There's all kinds of cool stuff in it. There's some original black and white stuff from the 90s, mid-90s. It just kind of chronicles a lot of my career, little condoodles, all kinds of stuff. So we have a pre-launch sign-up page for this right now. So I don't know if the link is in the description, but if there's some mods, if you could put that link in, I would greatly appreciate it. So we're going to be launching that thing at the end of the month. And then I am working at a fever pitch on the next black and white installment, which is volume 3, The Sins of the Father, that I'm working on with Aaron Sparrow. So.
Awesome.
That's a long
good
elevator.
question.
All right.
Yeah. Well, it's at the Empire State Building. He's going all the way to the top.
I got a lot of things going, Graham.
Do any of you hope you're not remembered for something?
Hey.
No, wait. I got to do my pitch.
Hey,
I got to do my
still
pitch,
have
and
to go.
Andy's got to do his pitch. No, I just put that up there because I didn't want it to get lost in the feed. There is a world above, the cosmos, the world below, hell, the world that is unseen, like Doctor Strange, and the one we know, like the terrors on the streets. Black Flag is a team to protect us from all. They're protecting the earth one world at a time. What would it be like if all the 80s movies and 90s action movies had made sweet love to all the action, anime, and manga of the 90s, like Ghost in the Shell and Intron Depot and Appleseed and Akira, and smashed in the middle? You'd get Black Flag.
Pineapple Perception.
Andy, your turn.
There you go. Kordrath, The Awakening, the second volume in the Kordrath saga. Kordrath and Adriana continue their quest. They need to vanquish and defeat Vordoom, the Undying, who is the big bad behind everything. He's looking for these ancient artifacts so he can rule the Shattered Reach. Kordrath needs to save Adriana's tribe, unlike his own, which he could not save in Kordrath the Reckoning, which you can also get. If you like Conan, Dungeons and Dragons, and Game of Thrones, they're all mixed in. The bowl poured out to give you Kordrath, and new with this campaign, you can get yourself a 5-inch figure of Kordrath, or a 2-inch, or a 3-inch. This is the nice 5-inch one.
I prefer the 12-inch.
Along with it. Well,
I know you can take all 12 in your box, right?
I know you like the hard 12. But
I just realized I said I prefer the 12-inch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe
we know, Art. We know. You and
So
Fatty's on a roof.
Gay Pride Month is this month, right?
Yeah.
It is.
So maybe Andy and I will be coming out of the closet.
Why am I mixed in with this? What the hell?
Because
It's always
earlier,
you, Andy.
callback. It's a callback.
I know.
Come
Hey,
on.
look, when Dan's here, you fly into town. We'll all go down for the parade and have a good time.
We all go down. Oh my god.
Parade.
At
You
the
know what?
parade.
You know what?
Oh, okay.
Here's a weird
Gonna go
thing, man.
down
Like,
on the
and
parade.
this is where, like, I go, man. You know, the people talk about appropriation and everything. Back in like '97 or so, I was really going to church quite often, and thanks to my inker Larry Stucker and his wife, wonderful people. Art knows them. You know, wonderful people, and they gave me a Bible for my birthday that year, and I was so into it, like full on, like just yes, let's go, that I got a "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet, right? And I picked the one that was great. It was colorful. It said WWJD. You know, I wore it, and every time I was thinking of doing something wrong, I'd go, yeah, you know, God, I'm here for God. But then I noticed, like, people would call me sweetheart and honey, and touch my hand sometimes. And it was because the "What Would You Do" bracelet was rainbow.
Oh.
And I didn't know. I just picked it because it was, you know, bright and shiny. Like our Lord Jesus in the rainbow, that is the promise to keep us unflooded, you know, the promise to Noah. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's all.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, what was that dude's question? What was Jeff's question?
Oh yeah, sorry, wait, we totally lost it. It was something about not wanting to be remembered. Is there something we want? We
Is there
don't
a
want to be
big
remembered
project
for?
you've done that you don't want to be remembered for?
Well, I don't. Well, he says there's something notable that you've done that you don't want to be remembered for. I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Here. Did any of you hope? Did any of you hope you're not remembered for something notable you did? Yes, Deathmate Red. I'll just quickly say it. 8 pages in a day, not a happy thing. Every time someone brings it to me to have signed, I'm like, oh no. Deathmate Red.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I cut those pages out of the book. I was like, oh my god.
That's a true friend
That's
stab in the
before I even
front.
knew Dan.
That's all I, you know.
So
That's a thing.
Actually, for me, it was working with Kevin Smith. End of story.
oh, I know that job.
For me, it was Justice League versus Predator.
Oh, you
Oh
told me.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Not
Justice
good.
League versus Predator.
On paper, it sounds like a cool gig, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd go with I can't remember the issue of Cable, but it was an issue of Cable.
It's the one where they
Yeah, where
redrew you?
in house they butchered the artwork. So
Well, it's got to be something notable, right? So not just like, oh yeah, I remember this still
that's
I
true.
did was horrible.
I don't know. I haven't done anything notable.
We got a member for 45 months, man. I keep forgetting to reset the memberships. Thank you. That is a long time, my brother. I had Deathmate signed by Frege in the 90s. I hope you're healing well, dude. And then we also had the how's the operation? Things are going good. Just real quick update for you guys. You know, it feels really tight in here. I know Art's like it just a sort of overall tightness in here. I'm off the pain meds today. You know, I weaned them down. I was doing 4 a day. Like last week when we did the show, I was on 4 a day. Yesterday I was on 1 a day, a half in the morning and half at night. Today is no pills. So I'm feeling a little sore than usual, but I'm feeling quite optimistic and looking forward to heroes.
Dan, it's okay. Yeah. This is a safe space. You can come out and tell everybody the operation was an addictomy. It's okay.
So now I have 2. And when I go to your house, there will be 4.
What? Well, you know, you got the one put in the back as well. So, you know,
it's my tail.
That's right.
It's my squirting tail, as they call it. You guys are weird. All right.
Andy's I didn't say anything. That's Andy.
Yeah, really.
Weirdo.
Let's see if there's any more questions, you guys. Let's see. Here's a question. Did you guys ever read the Book of Geniuses by Art Crumb? I myself have not. I've not seen it. I've
No.
not read it. I like Crumb. I
have seen.
I have all of his
I've seen
sketchbooks.
the biography film Crumb, which is
I've seen that.
something else.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
his brother that was swallowing the straw.
Oh,
floss!
I know.
The body
fucking
floss.
Crazy, man.
body floss.
And he was the most normal person. Crumb was the most normal person in the family.
Sometimes I feel like my family's that way.
Oh my God,
And,
dude.
and my
Damn.
brother David's the most normal.
Well, yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, let's wind it down. We've been going
Yep.
almost 2 hours. We got 710 viewers. It's a record for my show, at least for our professionals. And next week, I think we're supposed to go to Billy because I'm
Billy.
hosting for him.
If he shows
Uh,
up, you know.
Yeah, you guys got to hear about our project, so that's all good. Any of you guys have anything you want to say before we knock out, other than peace out?
Just thanks to everybody for
thank
hanging
you
out
all.
with us for the last 2 hours, and thanks for
Yeah.
supporting all of our projects and spilling
Absolutely.
something that's a labor of love from all 6 of us. So we appreciate you guys supporting us, and hopefully, you're digging what we're putting down. So
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
You think it'd be appropriate to end out in some bacon?
Sure.
Bacon.
All right,
Right.
bacon it is.